There is a fundamental misunderstanding that keeps most people locked in struggle. It is not lack of effort. It is not lack of intelligence. It is not even lack of opportunity. It is something far more subtle, far more pervasive, and far more devastating to your financial well-being. It is the way you think about wealth itself. It is the framework through which you view success, abundance, and your relationship to the resources of this universe. Most people approach wealth from what Wallace D. Wattles called the competitive mind. This is the belief that there is a limited amount of wealth in the world, that for you to have more, someone else must have less, that success is a zero-sum game where winners take from losers, where the strong dominate the weak, where scarcity is the fundamental reality and competition is the only way to survive. This belief system is so deeply embedded in our culture, so thoroughly reinforced by our economic systems, so constantly modeled by those around us, that most people never question it. They accept it as truth. They organize their entire approach to money around it, and in doing so, they guarantee their own limitation. Because the competitive mind, no matter how fierce, no matter how determined, no matter how strategic, cannot create lasting abundance. It can create temporary gains. It can create moments of advantage. It can create the illusion of success, but it cannot create true wealth. True wealth, the kind that sustains, that grows, that serves not just you but all those around you, comes from an entirely different source. It comes from what Wattles called the creative mind. And until you shift from competition to creation, from taking to making, from fighting for your share to generating something new, you will remain trapped in the very struggle that prevents the abundance you seek. This is not a small distinction. This is not a minor adjustment in your thinking. This is a complete paradigm shift. It is the difference between living in a universe of scarcity and living in a universe of abundance. It is the difference between seeing yourself as separate from others, in conflict with them, threatened by their success, and seeing yourself as part of an interconnected whole, where one person's rise lifts everyone, where creation benefits all, where there is more than enough for everyone when we stop fighting over what exists and start generating what doesn't yet exist. Tonight, we will explore this distinction deeply. We will examine exactly how the competitive mind operates, how it shapes your thoughts about money, how it influences your actions, how it creates the very scarcity it fears. We will understand why competition, even when it appears to succeed, ultimately fails to deliver lasting wealth. And most importantly, we will discover the creative mind, the consciousness that Wattles taught, the way of thinking that aligns you with the infinite abundance of the universe, that allows wealth to flow to you not through struggle, but through contribution, not through taking, but through giving, not through force, but through alignment with creative law. If you have been working hard, trying everything you know to do, pushing and striving and competing, and yet wealth still eludes you, this understanding will change everything. Because the problem is not your effort. The problem is the foundation upon which that effort is built. Change the foundation, and everything changes. Shift from competitive to creative, and you move from scarcity to abundance, from struggle to flow, from limitation to infinite possibility. Let us begin by understanding exactly what Wattles meant by the competitive mind, and why it is the greatest obstacle to wealth that exists. The competitive mind is rooted in a single belief. The belief in scarcity, the belief that there is not enough money, not enough opportunity, not enough success to go around. This belief creates a particular way of seeing the world. When you believe in scarcity, you see other people as threats. Their success means less for you. Their gain is your loss. Their prosperity diminishes the pool from which you can draw, and so you approach life as a battle. You must compete. You must fight. You must take your share before someone else takes it. You must protect what you have. You must be constantly vigilant against those who would take from you. This mindset creates a very specific emotional state. It creates fear. Fear of not having enough. Fear of losing what you have. Fear of others getting ahead of you. Fear of being left behind. Fear of missing out. This fear is constant. It colors everything. It makes you tense. It makes you defensive. It makes you aggressive. It makes you suspicious. It makes you calculating. You are always measuring yourself against others, always comparing, always evaluating who is ahead and who is behind, always strategizing about how to get more of the limited pie. And this emotional state, this vibration of fear and scarcity and competition, this is what determines what you attract, not your effort, not your strategy, not your intelligence, your vibration, your emotional frequency. The universe, or the thinking substance as Wattles called it, responds not to what you want, but to what you are. And when you are in a state of fear, when you are vibrating scarcity, when your consciousness is oriented toward competition and taking, you attract experiences that match that frequency. You attract more scarcity, more competition, more struggle, more reasons to fear, more evidence that there is not enough. The very thing you were trying to avoid through competition, you create through competition. This is the terrible irony. The competitive mind, born from fear of scarcity, generates the experience of scarcity. It is self-fulfilling. It is self-perpetuating. The more you compete, the more you believe in scarcity. The more you believe in scarcity, the more you compete. And round you go, trapped in a cycle that feels like the only option, feels like reality itself, but is actually a prison of your own making. Let me be clear about something. I am not saying that competition never produces results. Of course it can. If you compete hard enough, strategically enough, ruthlessly enough, you can win. You can take market share from a competitor. You can get the promotion that someone else wanted. You can accumulate more than the person next to you. The competitive mind can produce what appears to be success. But examine this success closely. Look at what it costs. Look at what it requires. Look at what it does to you. To succeed through competition, you must be constantly vigilant. You must work harder than everyone else. You must be more clever, more aggressive, more willing to do whatever it takes. You must sacrifice your time, your health, your relationships, your peace of mind. You must live in a state of perpetual stress, always watching your back, always defending your position, always worried about the next threat, the next competitor, the next person trying to take what you have. And even if you win, even if you accumulate wealth through this approach, you never feel secure, because you know, deep in your bones, that what was taken can be taken from you. What was gained through competition can be lost through competition. You are never safe. You are never at peace. You have wealth perhaps, but not abundance, not the felt sense of plenty, not the deep knowing that there is more than enough, not the freedom that true wealth should bring. This is why so many people who succeed through competitive means are miserable. They have money, but no joy. They have possessions, but no satisfaction. They have achieved, but feel empty. Because competitive success is hollow. It is based on a lie, the lie of scarcity. And no matter how much you accumulate, as long as you believe in scarcity, as long as you approach life from the competitive mind, you will never have enough. There will always be someone with more. There will always be something else to fear losing. There will always be another battle to fight. You are on a treadmill that never stops. And the faster you run, the faster it goes. Wattles understood this profoundly. He saw that the competitive approach to wealth was not just ineffective in the long term, it was fundamentally at odds with how the universe actually works. It was fighting against the current rather than flowing with it. It was trying to get water from a stone rather than going to the river, and he offered a completely different approach, the approach of the creative mind, the approach of someone who understands that wealth is not taken from a limited supply, but created from an unlimited source, that there is a thinking substance that pervades all of existence, that responds to thought, that can be shaped by consciousness, that is infinite in its capacity to produce form, and that when you learn to work with this substance, when you think in a certain way, when you align your mind with creative rather than competitive principles, wealth flows to you not as something you must fight for, but as something you naturally generate. This is the shift we must make, from competitive to creative, from scarcity to abundance, from taking to making. Let us explore what this means, what it requires, and how it transforms everything about your relationship with money and success. The creative mind operates from an entirely different premise than the competitive mind. Where the competitive mind sees scarcity, the creative mind sees abundance. Where the competitive mind sees others as threats, the creative mind sees them as potential collaborators, customers, partners in mutual benefit. Where the competitive mind asks, "How can I take more?" the creative mind asks, "What can I create?" This difference in orientation, this difference in the fundamental question you ask, changes everything. When you operate from the creative mind, you are no longer focused on the existing pie and how to get a bigger slice. You are focused on baking a new pie. You are focused on creating value that didn't exist before. You are focused on solving problems, meeting needs, offering something to the world that improves life for others. And here is what Wattles teaches. When you create value, when you genuinely contribute something useful, something beneficial, something that serves others, wealth flows to you automatically, not as something you must take, not as something you must fight for, but as the natural result of your creative contribution. This is how true abundance works. It is not a matter of dividing up what exists. It is a matter of creating what doesn't yet exist. And the beautiful thing about creation is that it has no limits. There is no cap on how much value can be created. There is no maximum amount of wealth that can be generated. Because the source, the thinking substance, the creative power of the universe is infinite. It never runs out. It never depletes. The more you draw from it through creative thought and action, the more it has to give. This is abundance. This is the reality that the competitive mind cannot see because it is too busy fighting over scraps, too focused on what already exists to notice the infinite potential of what could be created. Let me give you a concrete example to make this distinction clear. Imagine two people starting businesses. The first person operates from the competitive mind. They look at the market, see what products already exist, choose one that seems profitable, and think, how can I sell this cheaper than my competitors so I take their customers? This is the competitive approach. Find what exists and try to do it cheaper, faster, more aggressively, so you can win market share from someone else. This person is entirely focused on taking customers, taking market share, taking wealth that is already in circulation. They are operating from scarcity, from the belief that there is only so much demand, only so many customers, only so much wealth, and success means getting yours before someone else does. The second person operates from the creative mind. They don't look at what already exists and try to do it cheaper. They ask, what problem exists that is not being solved? What need is not being met? What value could I create that would genuinely improve people's lives? And from this question, from this orientation toward creation rather than competition, they develop something new. Not a cheaper version of what exists, but something different, something better, something that serves in a way nothing else does. And when they bring this to market, they are not taking customers from anyone. They are creating new value. They are solving problems that were unsolved. They are meeting needs that were unmet. And people pay them gladly, not because they have no other option, not because this is the cheapest, but because this genuinely helps them, genuinely serves them, genuinely makes their life better. Which of these two people do you think creates lasting wealth? Which do you think operates with less stress? Which do you think attracts more abundance? The answer is obvious. The creative person. Because they are working with the universe rather than against it. They are generating rather than taking. They are expanding the pie rather than fighting over it. And the universe, the thinking substance, responds to creation. It supports it, it amplifies it, it brings resources, opportunities, connections, ideas, everything needed to support the creative impulse. The competitive person, meanwhile, is stuck in endless battle. They might win some customers, they might make some sales, but they are always under threat. There is always someone who can go cheaper, always someone who can be more aggressive, always someone who can take back what they took. Their success is precarious, their stress is constant, and they never tap into the real source of wealth, which is not what already exists, but what can be created. This is the fundamental teaching of Wattles. Wealth comes through creation, not competition, through giving value, not taking it, through contributing to others, not dominating them. And when you shift your mind from competitive to creative, when you stop asking, how can I get mine? And start asking, what can I create? Everything changes. Your energy changes, your vibration changes, your actions change, and most importantly, your results change. Because you have aligned yourself with the way the universe actually works, with the principles that govern abundance, with the laws that Wattles discovered and taught, the laws that guarantee wealth to those who think and act in the creative way. But this shift from competitive to creative is not easy. It requires unlearning deeply conditioned patterns. It requires releasing fears that feel completely justified. It requires trusting in principles that contradict everything you've been taught about how to succeed in this world. Let us examine the obstacles to this shift and how to overcome them. Tahu. The first obstacle to shifting from competitive to creative thinking is the evidence all around you that competition is how the world works. You see it everywhere. In business, where companies fight for market share. In careers, where people compete for positions and promotions. In everyday life, where scarcity seems real, where resources appear limited, where you watch people struggle and fight and scratch for what they can get. This evidence is overwhelming. It seems to prove that the competitive model is not just one way to approach life, but the only way, the realistic way, the way things actually are. And so when someone like Wattles comes along and says, no, there is another way, the creative way, the way of abundance, your logical mind resists. It says, that sounds nice, but it's not realistic. Look around. The world is competitive. Resources are limited. If I don't compete, I'll be left behind. I'll be taken advantage of. I'll lose out to those who are willing to play the game. This resistance is powerful because it feels like wisdom. It feels like you are being practical, realistic, grounded in how things actually are. But here is what you must understand. The evidence of competition all around you is not proof that competition is the fundamental nature of reality. It is proof that competition is what most people believe and therefore what most people experience. Remember, the universe responds to consciousness. It gives you what you believe. If you believe in scarcity, you experience scarcity. If you believe you must compete, you find yourself in competitive situations. If you believe there is not enough, you encounter evidence of limitation. Not because that is reality, but because that is what you are creating through your beliefs. This is crucial to understand. What you see around you is not objective reality that you must accept. It is collective manifestation of collective consciousness. Most people believe in scarcity. Most people operate from competitive mind. And so most of what you see is the result of that consciousness. But that doesn't make it the only possibility. That doesn't make it the truth. That doesn't mean you must participate in it. You can choose different beliefs. You can operate from different principles. You can align with a different aspect of reality, the creative aspect, the abundant aspect, the aspect that Wattles discovered and taught. When you do this, when you make this shift internally, something extraordinary happens. You begin to notice opportunities that were always there, but you couldn't see through the lens of competition. You begin to attract different circumstances. You begin to interact with people who also operate from abundance rather than scarcity. You begin to experience a different reality, not because reality changed, but because you changed. And you now perceive and create from a different level of consciousness. The second obstacle is fear. Even if you intellectually understand that the creative way is superior to the competitive way, there is a deep fear that if you stop competing, if you stop fighting, if you stop trying to take your share, you will be vulnerable. You will be taken advantage of. Others who are still in competitive mode will dominate you, will take from you, will win while you lose. This fear is primal. It feels like survival. And it keeps you locked in competitive mode even when you want to shift. But this fear is based on a misunderstanding. Operating from creative mind does not mean being passive. It does not mean allowing yourself to be taken advantage of. It does not mean weakness. It means something entirely different. It means generating value rather than fighting over it. It means building rather than taking. It means creating rather than competing. And here is what you must understand. When you are creating genuine value, when you are contributing something meaningful, when you are solving real problems for people, you are not vulnerable. You are powerful. Because people want what you have to offer. They need it. They are willing to pay for it. Not because you are competing with someone else and you happen to be cheaper or faster, but because you are providing something valuable, something beneficial, something they genuinely want. This is a completely different kind of power than competitive power. Competitive power is about domination, about being stronger, faster, more ruthless than others. And it is always precarious because there is always someone who can be more ruthless, more aggressive, more willing to do whatever it takes. Creative power, on the other hand, is about value, about contribution, about giving people something they want and need. And this kind of power is sustainable because the better you get at creating value, the more people want what you offer, the more secure your position becomes. Not because you are fighting off competitors, but because you are genuinely serving others in a way that few others do. The third obstacle is the belief that you must know how before you make the shift. That you must have the creative way fully figured out, must have the business plan, must see the whole path before you can step onto it. But this is impossible. The creative path reveals itself as you walk it. You cannot see the entire journey from the competitive mindset. You must make the shift first, in consciousness, in how you think about wealth and value and your relationship to others and to the universe. And as you make this shift, as you begin to orient toward creation rather than competition, opportunities appear, ideas come, connections form, the path unfolds, not before, during, as you walk it. This requires faith, not blind faith, not faith that ignores reality, but faith in the principles that Wattles taught. Faith that when you align with creative law, when you think in the certain way, when you focus on generating value rather than taking it, the universe supports you. Resources appear, help comes, things work out, not through magic, not through wishing, but through the lawful operation of consciousness interacting with the thinking substance that underlies all form. This is science. This is law. This is how reality works at its deepest level. And when you trust it enough to act on it, you discover that it is true, not because someone told you, because you experience it directly. So the shift from competitive to creative requires these things. It requires understanding that the evidence of competition around you is not proof of fundamental reality, but result of collective consciousness. It requires moving through the fear that you will be vulnerable if you stop competing. And it requires faith that the creative path will reveal itself as you walk it, that you don't need to see the whole journey before taking the first step. With these understandings, you can begin to make the shift. You can begin to think differently about wealth. You can begin to operate from abundance rather than scarcity. You can begin to align with the creative power that Wattles taught, the power that generates true and lasting abundance. Let us now explore specifically how to cultivate the creative mind, how to think in the way that attracts wealth through creation rather than competition. The foundation of the creative mind is a shift in your fundamental question. The competitive mind asks, "What can I get?" The creative mind asks, "What can I give?" This seems like a small difference. It is not. This is the difference between scarcity and abundance, between taking and making, between alignment with universal creative power and opposition to it. When your primary orientation is toward getting, toward taking, toward securing your piece of a limited pie, you are in competitive mode. When your primary orientation is toward giving, toward creating value, toward contributing something beneficial to the world, you are in creative mode. Now, let me be clear. The creative way is not about selfless sacrifice. It is not about giving away everything you have and expecting nothing in return. That is not what Wattles taught. What he taught is that wealth flows to those who create value for others, that the way to have more is to give more, but give in a specific way. Give value. Give something people want and need. Give something that genuinely improves their life, solves their problems, meets their desires. And when you do this, when you become focused on the question, what value can I create for others? Wealth flows to you naturally, not as charity, not as something you must beg for or fight for, but as fair exchange. You give value, you receive wealth. Simple, natural, lawful. This is the creative formula. Focus on creating value. Focus on serving others. Focus on solving problems that need solving. Focus on meeting needs that are unmet. And do this not from a place of sacrifice, but from a place of genuine desire to contribute, genuine interest in improving life for others, genuine satisfaction in creating something useful and beneficial. When you approach wealth creation this way, everything changes. You are no longer in conflict with others. You are in cooperation, because their benefit is your benefit. The more value you create for them, the more wealth flows to you. There is no competition, there is no taking, there is only creation and exchange. And this is sustainable, this is joyful, this is aligned with how the universe works. So the first practice for cultivating creative mind is to shift your primary question from what can I get to what can I give. Do this consciously. Throughout your day, catch yourself when you are in taking mode, when you are thinking about what you can extract from a situation, what you can get from someone, how you can secure more for yourself. And in that moment, shift. Ask instead, what value can I create here? How can I serve? What can I contribute that would genuinely help? This simple shift, practiced consistently, reprograms your mind. It moves you from competitive to creative, from scarcity to abundance, from resistance to flow. The second practice is to study value creation. Most people have no idea what creates value. They think value is about having credentials, about working hard, about putting in time. But value has nothing to do with these things. Value is about solving problems. meeting needs, making life better, easier, more pleasant, more productive, more enjoyable for others. This is what people pay for. This is what creates wealth. So become a student of value. Look at the products and services that people gladly pay for. Ask yourself, what problem does this solve? What need does this meet? Why do people want this? And as you develop this understanding of value creation, you begin to see opportunities everywhere. Problems that need solving, needs that are unmet, ways you could create something that would genuinely serve people. This is the creative mind at work, not looking at what exists and trying to take a piece of it, but looking at what could be created, what would be valuable, what would help. The third practice is to develop your unique creative capacity. You are not like anyone else. You have unique interests, unique skills, unique perspectives, unique combinations of abilities and experiences that no one else has. This uniqueness is your greatest asset in creating value, because you can create something that others cannot. You can serve in a way that others cannot. You can solve problems from an angle that others would never think of. But most people ignore their uniqueness. They try to fit in. They try to do what others do. They try to compete on the same playing field where everyone is already competing. This is the competitive approach, and it leads to struggle. The creative approach is to honor your uniqueness, to develop what makes you different, to cultivate your particular gifts and interests and perspectives, and then to create value from that unique position. When you do this, you are not competing with anyone, because no one else can do exactly what you do, exactly the way you do it. You have created your own category, your own niche, your own way of serving that is not threatened by anyone else's success, because you are not trying to be them. You are being fully yourself, and there is a market for that. There are people who need exactly what you uniquely can provide. Your job is not to compete with others. Your job is to discover and develop and offer your unique creative capacity to the world. The fourth practice is to think in terms of abundance rather than scarcity. This sounds simple, but it requires constant vigilance, because the scarcity mindset is so deeply conditioned. Every time you feel threatened by someone else's success, you are in scarcity. Every time you worry that there is not enough for you, you are in scarcity. Every time you feel you must protect what you have, you are in scarcity. Catch these thoughts, notice them, and consciously shift. Remind yourself that the universe is abundant, that wealth is created, not divided, that one person's success does not diminish your opportunities, that there is more than enough for everyone, that the more value is created in the world, the more wealth exists, and that benefits everyone, including you. This shift from scarcity to abundance thinking is not just positive thinking, it is alignment with reality, with how the universe actually works. And when you think this way consistently, you attract abundance. You create from abundance. You generate wealth from the infinite source rather than fighting over the finite scraps. The fifth practice is to maintain a vision of what you want to create, not just what you want to have, what you want to create, what value you want to bring into the world, what problem you want to solve, what contribution you want to make. This vision pulls you forward. It organizes your thoughts, your decisions, your actions around creation rather than competition. It keeps you oriented toward giving value rather than taking it. And as you hold this vision clearly, as you think about it regularly, as you feel the satisfaction of creating something meaningful, the universe responds. It brings ideas, it brings opportunities, it brings people who can help, it brings resources. Everything needed to manifest your creative vision flows to you, not through fighting, not through competing, but through alignment with creative law. These practices, applied consistently, transform your mind from competitive to creative. They shift your vibration from scarcity to abundance. They align you with the principles that Wattles taught, the principles that guarantee wealth to those who think and act in the creative way. But practice is not enough. You must also act. You must take the ideas, the insights, the opportunities that come from creative thinking and do something with them. You must move. You must create. You must bring value into form. Let us explore how to do this, how to act from the creative mind in practical, concrete ways that generate wealth. The creative mind without action is just philosophy. It is interesting, it is intellectually satisfying, but it does not create wealth. Wealth requires manifestation. It requires that the ideas, the insights, the creative visions in your mind take form in the physical world. This is where many people who understand these principles intellectually still fail to generate abundance. They think creatively, but they do not act creatively. They have the vision, but they do not do the work to make it real. And so nothing changes. They remain in their current circumstances, wondering why the principles don't work, not realizing that the principles are working perfectly, but they are not applying them fully. Wattles was very clear about this. You must do as well as think. You must act in the certain way as well as think in the certain way. And acting in the certain way, when it comes to creative wealth generation, means taking every action that is in front of you to create and deliver value. It means moving on your creative ideas. It means developing your skills. It means creating your products or services. It means putting your work into the world. It means serving people. It means doing the actual work of creation, not just thinking about it, not just visualizing it, but actually doing it. Now, the actions of the creative mind are different from the actions of the competitive mind. The competitive mind acts from force, from pushing, from trying to make things happen through sheer effort and determination, from fighting and struggling and grinding. The creative mind acts from inspiration, from flow, from doing what feels aligned, what feels like the next natural step, what feels like an expression of your creative vision. This does not mean creative action is easy. It does not mean there is no effort, but the effort feels different. It feels productive rather than exhausting. It feels like building rather than fighting. It feels like you are creating something rather than taking something. Let me give you a practical framework for creative action. First, identify a problem that needs solving or a need that is unmet. This is your starting point. Not, what can I sell, but what problem can I solve? Look at your own life. Look at the people around you. Look at your industry or community or any area where you have knowledge or experience. Where are people struggling? Where are things not working as well as they could? Where is there frustration, difficulty, inefficiency, dissatisfaction? These are all opportunities for value creation, because if you can solve that problem, if you can meet that need, people will pay you gladly. Not because you are competing with someone else, but because you are providing something they want and need. Second, create a solution. This is where your creativity comes in. This is where your unique skills, perspectives, experiences matter. How could you solve this problem? What could you create that would address this need? It doesn't have to be completely original. It doesn't have to be revolutionary. It just has to work. It just has to genuinely help. Maybe it's a product, maybe it's a service, maybe it's information, maybe it's bringing together resources that already exist in a new way. The point is, you are creating something that solves the problem you identified. You are bringing value into existence that didn't exist before. Third, offer your solution to the people who have the problem. This is simple exchange. You have created something valuable. They need what you created. You offer it to them. They pay you for it. Everyone benefits. This is not competition. This is not taking. This is creation and exchange. You created value. You gave it to someone who needed it. They gave you wealth in return. And the total amount of wealth in the universe increased because value was created that didn't exist before. Fourth, improve your solution based on feedback and experience. The creative process is iterative. Your first version will not be perfect. That's fine, that's expected, put it out there. Learn from the response, see how it helps, see where it falls short, and make it better, make it more valuable, make it solve the problem more effectively. This continuous improvement is how you develop something truly exceptional, something that serves at the highest level, something that people seek out and pay premium prices for because it genuinely helps them in ways that other solutions don't. This is the cycle of creative action. Identify problem, create solution, offer it to those who need it, improve based on feedback, repeat, simple, practical, and completely different from the competitive approach of looking at what others are doing and trying to do it cheaper or faster or more aggressively. You are not looking at what others are doing. You are looking at what problems need solving. You are creating new value. You are serving in a unique way, and wealth flows to you as the natural result of this creative contribution. Now let me address a fear that often comes up when people start thinking about creating value and offering it to others. The fear is, what if no one wants what I create? What if I put in all this effort and no one buys? This is a legitimate concern, but it comes from competitive thinking, from the idea that you create something and then you have to convince people to want it. You have to compete for their attention. You have to persuade them that your thing is better than someone else's thing. That is exhausting and often ineffective. The creative approach is different. You start with the problem, with the need. You identify something that people already want solved, something they are already struggling with, something they would pay to fix if a good solution existed. And then you create that solution. You don't have to create demand. Demand already exists. You just have to create a solution that genuinely addresses it. When you do this, when you solve a real problem that people actually have, there is no struggle to sell. People want what you offer. They seek it out. They are grateful for it. They pay you gladly because you have made their life better. This is the key. Start with real problems. Create real solutions. Don't create something you think is cool or interesting and then try to convince people they need it. Find out what they actually need, what they are actually struggling with, and create something that genuinely helps with that. This is market research. This is understanding your audience. This is the difference between creating value and creating something you hope has value. When you know the problem intimately, when you understand the need deeply, creating a valuable solution becomes much easier. And selling it becomes natural because people actually want it. Another practical aspect of creative action is continuous learning and skill development. To create value, you must be able to do things. You must have skills, knowledge, abilities that allow you to solve problems and meet needs. And the more you develop these capacities, the more value you can create. This is an ongoing process. You never stop learning. You never stop improving. You never stop expanding what you are capable of doing. Because every new skill, every new piece of knowledge, every new ability increases your creative capacity. It increases what you can offer. It increases the value you can generate. And therefore, it increases the wealth that flows to you. Most people stop learning once they get a job or establish themselves in a career. They think they know enough. They coast. They do what they already know how to do and nothing more. This is competitive thinking. This is trying to hold on to what you have rather than continuously expanding. The creative mind never stops learning, never stops growing, never stops developing new capacities, because the more you can do, the more value you can create. The more value you create, the more wealth flows to you. It is direct, it is lawful, it is guaranteed. So make learning a daily practice. Read, take courses, practice skills, experiment, try new things, push yourself to expand what you are capable of, not from a place of I am not enough, but from a place of I can become more. Not from lack, but from abundance, from the joy of growth, from the satisfaction of mastery. from the desire to create more value and serve at a higher level. This attitude, this commitment to continuous expansion, is characteristic of the creative mind. And it attracts wealth because the universe rewards those who grow, who evolve, who become more. One more practical point about creative action: do everything you do with excellence. Not perfectionism, excellence. Do your work well. Take pride in what you create. Deliver more value than people expect. Go the extra mile. Pay attention to details. Care about quality. This matters enormously, because when you do excellent work, when you create truly valuable solutions, people notice. They tell others. They come back. They become loyal customers or clients. Your reputation grows, your opportunities expand, word spreads, and your business, your career, your wealth generation becomes easier and easier because you have built a foundation of excellent creative contribution. People know that what you offer is valuable. They trust you. They seek you out. You don't have to chase them. You don't have to compete. You attract them through the quality and value of what you create. This is the creative way in action. Identify problems, create solutions, offer them to those who need them, continuously improve, continuously learn and develop your capacities. Do everything with excellence. This is how you generate wealth through creation rather than competition. This is how you align with the principles Wattles taught. This is how you tap into the infinite abundance of the universe and channel it into your life in the form of prosperity and success. But even as you do all of this, even as you think creatively and act creatively, there will be times when you face challenges, when things don't go as planned, when you encounter obstacles. This is normal. This is part of the process. And how you handle these moments determines whether you stay in creative mode or slip back into competitive mode. Let us explore how to maintain creative consciousness even in the face of difficulty. The test of whether you have truly shifted from competitive to creative mind comes not when things are going well, but when you face challenges, when something goes wrong, when a plan fails, when you encounter an obstacle, when someone competes with you or criticizes you or seems to threaten your position. These are the moments when the old competitive patterns want to reassert themselves. The fear, the scarcity thinking, the urge to fight, to defend, to dominate. And if you are not careful, if you are not conscious, you can slip right back into competitive mode without even realizing it. But here is what Wattles teaches. Obstacles are not signs that you are on the wrong path. They are not evidence that the creative way doesn't work. They are simply part of the process. They are opportunities to deepen your faith in creative principles. They are tests of your commitment. They are chances to prove to yourself that you are truly operating from abundance rather than scarcity, from creation rather than competition. And when you handle these moments well, when you stay in creative consciousness, even when it would be easy to slip back into competition, you strengthen your alignment with abundance. You deepen your connection to the infinite source. You accelerate your manifestation of wealth. So how do you maintain creative mind in the face of challenges? First, you refuse to see obstacles as problems. You see them as information, as feedback, as guidance about what needs to adjust. Maybe your solution needs refining. Maybe you need to develop a new skill. Maybe you need to approach from a different angle. Maybe the obstacle is redirecting you towards something better than what you originally planned. All of this is useful. All of this serves your creative process. So instead of reacting with frustration or fear or anger when something goes wrong, you respond with curiosity. You ask, what is this showing me? What can I learn from this? How can I use this to create something better? This attitude, this response to challenge, is characteristic of creative mind. Because creative mind knows that every obstacle can be overcome, every problem has a solution, every setback is temporary. Not through fighting, not through forcing, but through creativity. Through finding a new approach, through innovation, through persistence in your creative vision while remaining flexible in your methods. This is completely different from competitive mind, which sees obstacles as threats, as evidence of scarcity, as reasons to fight harder or give up entirely. Second, you maintain your focus on creating value regardless of external circumstances. This is crucial. When things get difficult, the temptation is to shift into survival mode. To start thinking, how do I protect what I have? How do I make sure I don't lose? This is competitive, scarcity-based thinking, and it pulls you out of the creative flow. Instead, even in difficulty, especially in difficulty, you ask, how can I create more value? How can I serve better? How can I improve my offering? You stay focused on your creative purpose, on your contribution, on the value you are bringing into the world. This focus keeps you in creative consciousness. It keeps you aligned with abundance. It keeps you moving forward rather than contracting in fear. Third, you refuse to compare yourself to others or see their success as threatening to yours. This is one of the biggest ways competitive mind sneaks back in. You are doing fine, focused on your creative work, and then you see someone else succeeding in your field. They are getting attention, making money, being celebrated, and immediately, without even thinking about it, you feel threatened. You feel competitive. You start thinking, they are taking what should be mine. Their success means less for me. I need to compete harder. This is pure scarcity thinking, and it destroys your creative consciousness. The truth, which you must remind yourself of again and again until it becomes your automatic response, is that their success has nothing to do with your potential for success. Nothing. Zero. Because wealth is not limited. Because success is not a competition where only some can win. Because the universe is abundant and there is room for everyone who creates value. In fact, someone else succeeding in your field is good for you. It proves there is demand. It validates that value creation in this area is worthwhile. It shows that wealth flows to those who serve in this way. This is encouraging, not threatening. So when you notice competitive thoughts arising because of someone else's success, catch them, consciously shift, celebrate their success, learn from it, be inspired by it, and then return to your own creative work, to your own unique contribution, knowing that there is more than enough abundance for all. Fourth, you practice gratitude, especially in difficult times. This is how you maintain abundant vibration, even when circumstances are challenging. Gratitude is the antidote to scarcity. When you focus on what you have, on what is working, on the progress you have made, on the opportunities in front of you, on the capacity you have developed, you are in abundance consciousness. You are acknowledging that you have plenty, that you are surrounded by blessings, that life is giving to you. And this consciousness, this vibration of gratitude and abundance, is what attracts more abundance. Even when things are objectively difficult, you can find things to be grateful for. And this practice keeps you in creative mode rather than slipping into the competitive, fear-based response to challenge. Fifth, you trust the process. You have faith that when you think and act in the creative way, when you focus on creating value and serving others, wealth will come. Maybe not immediately, maybe not in the exact form you expected, but it will come. This is law. This is how the universe works. And when you trust this, when you have deep faith in these principles, you don't panic when results are delayed. You don't abandon your creative path and revert to competitive tactics because you are impatient. You stay the course. You keep creating value. You keep serving. You keep improving your offering. You keep growing your capacities. And you trust that the universe is orchestrating everything needed to bring you the wealth that corresponds to the value you are creating. This trust, this faith, is not blind. It is based on understanding, on knowing how consciousness works, on knowing that the thinking substance responds to thought, on knowing that when you align with creative principles, you align with the fundamental forces that govern manifestation. This knowledge gives you confidence. It allows you to stay in creative mode even when the competitive mind would panic. It allows you to maintain abundance consciousness even when circumstances seem to suggest scarcity. And this steadiness, this consistency in your creative orientation is what ultimately manifests the wealth you desire. Let me share something important about the journey from competitive to creative consciousness. It is not a one-time shift. It is not something you do once and then it's done. It is an ongoing practice, a daily choice, a moment-by-moment decision about which mind you will operate from. The competitive patterns are deeply conditioned. They will surface again and again, especially under stress, especially when challenged. This is normal. This is expected. Your job is not to never have competitive thoughts. Your job is to notice them when they arise, recognize them for what they are, manifestations of fear and scarcity programming, and consciously choose different thoughts. Choose creative thoughts. Choose abundance thoughts. Choose thoughts of value creation and service and contribution. Every time you make this choice, you strengthen the creative mind. You weaken the competitive patterns. You build new neural pathways. You establish new habits of thought. And over time, creative thinking becomes more natural, more automatic, more your default mode. The competitive thoughts still come, but they have less power. They don't hook you as easily. You can observe them, release them, and return to creative consciousness much more quickly. This is the work. This is the practice. This is how you transform from someone who approaches wealth through competition to someone who generates wealth through creation. And this transformation, more than any specific strategy or tactic, is what determines your long-term abundance. Now, we must address something that many people struggle with. The question of what to do when others are competitive toward you, when they see you as a threat, when they try to take from you or undermine you or compete aggressively with you. How do you maintain creative consciousness when others are operating from competitive mind? This is a real challenge, and it requires both wisdom and strength. Let us explore this carefully. No, when you operate from creative mind, when you focus on creating value and serving others, when you embody abundance consciousness, you will inevitably encounter people who are still in competitive mode. They will see your success as threatening. They will try to compete with you. They might copy what you do, try to undercut your prices, criticize you publicly, poach your customers or clients, or engage in any number of competitive tactics designed to take from you what they perceive as a limited supply of wealth or success or attention. This is where many people who have intellectually embraced the creative way get tested. Because it is easy to maintain creative consciousness when everyone around you is supportive and collaborative. But when someone is actively competing against you, when they are trying to take what you have, the instinct is to fight back, to compete in return, to defend yourself, to engage in the same tactics they are using. And in that moment, you have slipped back into competitive mind. You have abandoned the creative principles you were trying to embody. You have proven that you didn't really believe in abundance after all. But here is what you must understand. When someone competes with you, they are operating from their consciousness, not yours. They believe in scarcity. They believe they must take from you to have more for themselves. They believe in competition. This is their reality. This is what they are creating. But it does not have to be your reality. You can choose different beliefs. You can maintain creative consciousness. You can continue to focus on creating value rather than fighting with them. And when you do this, something extraordinary happens. You remain in flow while they struggle. You continue to attract abundance while they stay locked in scarcity. You thrive while they fight, not because you are better than them as a person, but because you are operating from different principles that are aligned with how the universe actually works. So the first response to someone competing with you is to refuse to engage competitively. Do not fight them. Do not try to beat them at their game. Do not lower your prices just because they lower theirs. Do not copy their tactics. Do not badmouth them. Do not engage in any competitive behavior. Instead, stay focused on your creative work. Keep creating value. Keep improving your offering. Keep serving your customers or clients at the highest level. Keep growing your capacities. Keep expanding what you do. This is how you respond to competition, not by competing back, but by creating more value, by serving better, by being so focused on your creative contribution that you don't have time or energy to worry about what others are doing. This response often baffles competitive people. They expect you to fight, they expect engagement, and when you don't give it to them, when you simply continue doing your creative work, it disrupts their whole approach. They don't know what to do with someone who won't compete. And often, they eventually move on to compete with someone else who will engage with them. Meanwhile, you have remained in creative consciousness, maintained your abundance vibration, continued to attract wealth through value creation, and avoided the exhausting and ultimately futile battle of competition. The second response is to recognize that someone copying what you do or offering something similar is not actually a threat. This is huge. The competitive mind sees copycats as stealing from you, taking what is yours, threatening your success. But the creative mind sees it differently. If someone copies what you do, it means you created something valuable enough that others want to replicate it. That is actually validation. That is proof that you are creating value. And here is the key. They can copy what you do, but they cannot copy who you are. They cannot copy your unique perspective, your specific way of serving, your particular relationship with your customers or clients, your continuous innovation and improvement. You are always evolving, always creating, always improving. They will always be one step behind, trying to copy what you already did, while you have moved on to the next level of value creation. So instead of seeing copycats as threats, see them as confirmation that you are on the right track. And then continue innovating, continue creating, continue evolving your offering. Stay ahead not through competition, but through continuous creative development. This is sustainable. This is joyful. This is the way of abundance. And it keeps you in creative consciousness rather than reactive competitive consciousness. The third response is to maintain clear boundaries while remaining in creative mode. Not engaging competitively does not mean being passive or allowing yourself to be taken advantage of. If someone violates your intellectual property, you protect it. If someone breaches a contract, you enforce it. If someone treats you unethically, you remove them from your business or life. But you do all of this calmly, clearly, without anger or fear or competitive energy. You simply establish and maintain boundaries that protect your creative work and your well-being. This is not competition. This is self-respect. This is honoring the value you create by ensuring you receive fair compensation for it. And it can be done from creative consciousness, from a place of abundance and self-worth, rather than from fear and scarcity. The fourth response, perhaps the most powerful, is to maintain compassion for those who compete with you. This does not mean allowing them to harm you. It does not mean being naive about their intentions. But it means recognizing that they are acting from the consciousness they have, the beliefs they hold, the programming they received. They believe in scarcity. They believe they must compete. They believe your success threatens theirs. This is painful. This is limiting. This traps them in struggle. And while you do not have to engage with them, while you can maintain boundaries and protect yourself, you can still hold compassion in your heart for their situation. This compassion keeps you from falling into judgment, resentment, or competitive energy. It keeps your heart open, it keeps your vibration high, and it allows you to continue creating from abundance rather than contracting into scarcity. Now, there is a larger point here about the relationship between creative consciousness and the collective competitive consciousness that dominates our culture. Most of the systems you operate within, business, education, career structures, even social interactions, are built on competitive principles. On the belief that resources are limited, that success is zero-sum, that you must fight for your place. When you shift to creative consciousness, you are not just changing your individual mindset. You are choosing to operate by different rules than the dominant culture. This takes courage. It takes faith. It takes willingness to be different, to be misunderstood, to have others think you are naive or idealistic or impractical. But here is what you must remember. The people who have created the most wealth, who have made the biggest impact, who have built lasting success, have almost always operated from creative consciousness, even if they didn't call it that. They focused on creating value. They solved problems that others weren't solving. They served in unique ways. They innovated. They contributed. Yes, they existed in competitive systems. Yes, they had to navigate competitive people. But their fundamental orientation was creative, not competitive. They generated rather than took. They built rather than battled. And this is why their success was sustainable, why their wealth lasted, why they left a legacy rather than just a temporary victory. You can do the same. You can operate from creative principles even in a competitive world. You can maintain abundance consciousness even when surrounded by scarcity thinking. You can focus on creating value even when others are focused on taking it. This is not about changing the world. This is about changing yourself, your consciousness, your approach. And when you do this, when you truly embody the creative mind that Wattles taught, you create a bubble of abundance around yourself. You attract people who also operate from abundance. You find opportunities that are not competitive. You generate wealth through creation rather than competition. And you demonstrate through your example that there is another way, a better way. A way that is more aligned with universal law, more sustainable, more joyful, and ultimately more abundant. This is the path. This is the shift from competitive to creative consciousness, and it is available to you right now, not someday when conditions are perfect, not when you know more or have more or are more prepared. Now, you can begin thinking creatively right now. You can shift your primary question from "what can I get?" to "what can I give?" right now. You can start identifying problems you could solve right now. You can begin developing solutions right now. You can take one action toward creating value right now. And as you do this, as you practice this way of thinking and being and acting, you align more and more with the principles that govern abundance. You tap more and more into the infinite creative power of the universe. And wealth flows to you more and more naturally, not as something you must fight for, but as the inevitable result of the value you create. Let us now explore some specific, practical applications of these principles in different areas of life and business, so you can see exactly how to implement the creative way in your circumstances. The creative mind can be applied in any area of life where wealth or success or fulfillment is desired. Let us look at several common situations and examine how the shift from competitive to creative thinking transforms your approach and your results. First, consider employment. The competitive approach to your job is to see yourself in competition with co-workers for raises, promotions, recognition, job security. You try to make yourself look good, sometimes at the expense of others. You hoard information rather than share it. You view your colleagues as threats rather than allies. You do the minimum required to keep your position. You resent your employer for not paying you more. You feel trapped, stuck, limited. This is miserable. And it rarely leads to advancement because people operating this way are not valuable to the organization. They are protecting rather than contributing. They are taking rather than creating. And organizations reward those who create value, not those who merely protect their position. The creative approach to employment is completely different. You ask, how can I create the most value for this organization? How can I solve problems that need solving? How can I make my boss's life easier? How can I help my team succeed? How can I contribute beyond my job description? You share information freely. You help colleagues succeed. You go above and beyond. You look for ways to improve processes, to increase efficiency, to serve customers better, to generate more revenue or reduce costs. You become indispensable not through political maneuvering, but through genuine value creation. And when you do this, when you make yourself truly valuable through creative contribution, advancement comes naturally. You don't have to fight for it. You are pulled upward by the value you create. Raises and promotions flow to you because you are worth more to the organization. You have proven it through your creative contribution. Or consider what happens if you want to leave employment and start your own business. The competitive approach is to look at what successful businesses already exist, choose one to copy or compete with, and try to do it cheaper or with better marketing so you can take their customers. This is difficult. You are fighting an uphill battle against established competition. You have no differentiation. You are just another option in a crowded market, and success requires constant struggle, constant fighting to maintain your small slice of the pie. The creative approach is to identify a problem that is not being solved well, or a market that is underserved, or a unique way you could create value that others are not providing. You are not looking to compete with existing businesses. You are looking to create something new, or to serve a specific niche in a way that others don't. Maybe the market is full of cheap options and you create a premium option for people who want quality and are willing to pay for it. Maybe everyone is serving large customers and you focus on small customers who are being ignored. Maybe everyone is doing things one way and you find a completely different approach that works better for certain people. The point is, you are differentiating through creation, not competing through imitation. And this makes everything easier. You attract customers who want specifically what you offer, not customers you have to steal from competitors. Or consider creative work, art, writing, content creation, any field where you are producing something original. The competitive approach is to look at what is popular, what gets attention, what others are doing successfully, and try to replicate it. Try to make content like the successful creators. Try to write like the best-selling authors. Try to paint like the famous artists. This is soulless, and it rarely succeeds because you are always derivative, always second-rate, always a copy of someone else. And audiences can feel this. They can sense that you are not creating from authentic inspiration, but from competitive desire to have what someone else has. The creative approach is to make what you genuinely want to make, to express what is actually in you to express, to create from your unique perspective, your unique voice, your unique vision, to not worry about whether it will be popular or successful, but to focus on making it as good as you can, as true to your creative impulse as possible. And here is what happens when you create authentically from genuine creative inspiration rather than competitive imitation. Your work has power. It has originality. It resonates with people who appreciate that specific expression. You find your audience, not the mass audience that likes what everyone else likes, but your audience, the people who connect with your unique creative offering. And this is sustainable. This is fulfilling. This is the creative way in action, in artistic endeavors. Or consider relationships and social dynamics. Yes, even here, competitive versus creative consciousness makes a huge difference. The competitive approach to relationships is to see them as transactions. What can I get from this person? How can they benefit me? Are they useful to my goals? Are they higher or lower status than me? Should I try to impress them, or can I dismiss them? This is exhausting. It makes relationships feel manipulative and hollow, and it prevents genuine connection because you are always calculating, always positioning, always competing for status or advantage. The creative approach to relationships is to focus on what you can contribute. How can you be a good friend? How can you support this person? How can you share your knowledge or resources or connections in a way that helps them? How can you create value in their life? When you approach relationships this way, from generosity rather than taking, from contribution rather than extraction, something beautiful happens. People feel it, they appreciate it, they want to be around you. They want to help you in return, not because you demanded it, but because you have been genuinely valuable to them. And over time, you build a network of genuine relationships based on mutual value creation and support. This network becomes one of your greatest assets, not because you manipulated people, but because you genuinely contributed to their lives and they want to contribute to yours. In every area of life, in every endeavor, the choice is the same. Competitive or creative, taking or making, scarcity or abundance, and in every case the creative approach is superior, not just ethically, not just philosophically, but practically. It generates better results, it creates more wealth, it produces more satisfaction. It is more sustainable, it is more aligned with how the universe actually works, and it is available to you in this moment, in whatever circumstance you find yourself, no matter where you are starting from. You do not need permission to think creatively. You do not need perfect conditions. You do not need more resources or knowledge or time. You need only the decision to shift your orientation from taking to creating, from competing to contributing, from scarcity to abundance. Make that decision. Make it right now. Commit to it. And then begin, in whatever small way you can, to act on it, to create value, to serve others, to solve problems, to contribute. This is how wealth is generated. This is how abundance flows into your life. This is the way that Wattles taught, the way that has worked for everyone who has applied it, the way that will work for you when you commit to it fully. But commitment is the key. You cannot dabble in creative consciousness. You cannot try it a little bit and see if it works before fully embracing it. Because the creative way requires that you actually be different, think different, act different, consistently enough that your vibration shifts, that your consciousness changes, that you begin to attract different circumstances. This takes time, this takes practice, this takes persistence. Let us explore what this commitment actually means and how to sustain it over time until creative consciousness becomes your natural state. Commitment to the creative way is not about perfection. It is not about never having a competitive thought, or never feeling scarcity, or never worrying about money. These things will happen. The competitive patterns are deeply ingrained. The scarcity programming is strong. You will slip back into old ways of thinking many times, especially at first, especially when stressed. This is normal. This is part of the process. Commitment is not about never falling. It is about getting back up, about recognizing when you have slipped into competitive consciousness and consciously choosing to return to creative consciousness, about making that choice again and again, day after day, moment after moment, until the creative way becomes more natural than the competitive way. Think of it like learning a new language. At first, you have to think about every word, every sentence. You make mistakes constantly. You revert to your native language whenever things get difficult. But if you persist, if you practice daily, if you keep choosing to speak the new language even when it is hard, eventually it becomes fluent. Eventually you think in the new language. Eventually it becomes automatic. The same is true for the shift from competitive to creative consciousness. At first, it requires conscious effort. You have to catch yourself thinking competitively. You have to deliberately shift to creative thoughts. You have to remind yourself of the principles. You have to practice seeing abundance instead of scarcity. But if you persist, if you make this shift again and again, it becomes your new default. It becomes who you are. And then wealth flows to you naturally, because you are naturally creating value, naturally contributing, naturally operating from abundance. So how do you sustain this commitment? How do you keep choosing the creative way, even when it would be easier to slip back into competition? Here are some practices that support long-term transformation. First, daily reminders of the principles. You need to keep these ideas fresh in your mind. The competitive programming from culture and conditioning is constant. If you are not actively reinforcing creative principles, the old patterns will reassert themselves by default. So make it a practice to read or listen to or reflect on these teachings every day. Read Wattles. Read this material. Listen to content that reinforces abundance and creation and value generation. Spend time each day consciously thinking about how you can create value, what problems you can solve, how you can serve. This daily reinforcement keeps creative consciousness alive and active in your mind. It prevents you from drifting back into competitive default. Second, regular vision practice. Hold clearly in your mind the vision of what you want to create. Not just what you want to have, but what you want to create. What value you want to bring into the world. What contribution you want to make. What problems you want to solve. See this vision clearly. Feel the satisfaction of creating it. Imagine the impact it will have on others. This vision pulls you forward. It organizes your thoughts and actions around creation rather than competition. It gives you something to work toward that is bigger than your personal gain. Something that involves serving others, contributing value, making a difference. And this vision sustains your motivation even when results are slow, even when challenges arise, even when the competitive mind tempts you to abandon your creative path. Third, measure your value creation, not just your income. Most people measure success only by money. How much did I make this month? How does my income compare to last month or to others? This focus on money as the measure can pull you back into competitive thinking, because money is something that can be compared, something that can trigger scarcity if you don't have as much as you want or as much as someone else. A more useful measure is value creation. How much value did I create this week? How many people did I serve? How many problems did I solve? How much better is my product or service than it was last month? How much have I grown in my capacity to contribute? These measures keep you focused on the creative process rather than just the financial result. And paradoxically, when you focus more on creating value and less on making money, you usually end up making more money because you are actually doing the thing that generates wealth, creating value, rather than just focusing on the byproduct. Fourth, gratitude practice. We touched on this earlier, but it deserves emphasis. Daily gratitude for what you have, for what is working, for the progress you have made, for the opportunities in front of you. This is essential for maintaining abundance consciousness. Gratitude is the antidote to scarcity. When you are grateful, you are acknowledging abundance. You are recognizing that you have plenty, that life is giving to you. And this consciousness, this felt sense of abundance, is what attracts more abundance. So make gratitude a daily practice. Not fake gratitude, where you pretend to be thankful for things you resent, but genuine appreciation for the real blessings in your life, which are always present if you look for them. This practice keeps your vibration high. It keeps you in creative consciousness. It prevents the scarcity thinking that pulls you back into competition. Fifth, surround yourself with creative thinkers. You become like the people you spend time with. If you are surrounded by competitive people People who believe in scarcity, people who are constantly struggling and fighting and complaining. It is very difficult to maintain creative consciousness. Their energy, their beliefs, their way of being will influence you whether you realize it or not. So consciously choose to spend time with people who think abundantly, who create value, who focus on contribution, who celebrate others' success, who operate from the creative principles you are learning. These people reinforce your new way of thinking. They normalize abundance consciousness. They make the creative way feel natural rather than strange or idealistic. And their example inspires you, shows you what is possible, helps you stay committed to the path even when it is challenging. Sixth, persistent action toward your creative vision. All the mindset work in the world will not manifest wealth if you don't act. You must do the work of creating value. You must develop your skills. You must create your products or services. You must put your work into the world. You must serve people. This requires consistent effort over time, not desperate pushing from scarcity, but steady, persistent, inspired action from your creative vision. Every day, do something that moves you toward your goal of creating value and serving others, even if it is small, even if it feels insignificant. These daily actions compound. They build momentum, they create results, and they keep you engaged in the creative process rather than just thinking about it. Seventh, patience with the process. The shift from competitive to creative consciousness does not produce instant results. Wealth generation through value creation takes time. You have to develop your capacity. You have to refine your offering. You have to build your reputation. You have to find your audience or market. This does not happen overnight. And if you expect instant results, if you become impatient and start thinking this isn't working after a few weeks or months, you will likely abandon the creative way and revert to competitive tactics out of desperation. Do not do this. Trust the process. Trust that when you create genuine value, when you serve others authentically, when you operate from creative principles consistently, wealth must come. This is law. This is guaranteed. The delay is not because the principles don't work. The delay is part of the process. It is the time needed for your offering to develop, for your skills to strengthen, for the universe to orchestrate the circumstances that will bring you the wealth you are generating through your creative contribution. Eighth, self-compassion when you slip into competitive thinking. You will have moments, many moments, where you fall back into competition, where you feel threatened by someone else's success, where you worry there is not enough, where you consider competing tactics. When this happens, do not beat yourself up. Do not decide you have failed or that you are not cut out for the creative way. Simply notice. Observe that you slipped into competitive consciousness. Understand why it happened, what triggered it, what fear or scarcity belief it came from, and then gently, compassionately, choose again. Choose creative consciousness. Choose abundance. Choose contribution over competition. This gentle returning, this patient practice of noticing and choosing, this is how transformation happens. Not through harsh self-judgment, not through perfection, but through consistent, compassionate return to creative principles every time you stray. These practices, applied consistently, support your commitment to the creative way. They help you sustain the shift from competitive to creative consciousness over the months and years it takes for this to become your natural state. And as you practice, as you persist, something beautiful happens. The creative way stops feeling like effort. It stops being a practice you have to consciously maintain. It becomes who you are. Creative thinking becomes automatic. Abundance consciousness becomes your default. Creating value becomes what you naturally do. And at that point, wealth flows to you effortlessly, not because you are forcing it, not because you are competing for it, but because you have become someone who naturally generates value, naturally contributes, naturally operates in alignment with the principles that govern abundance. You have become, in Wattles' terms, a creative being rather than a competitive being. And this transformation is the true wealth, more valuable than any specific amount of money, because once you have it, you can create wealth again and again, in any circumstances, for the rest of your life. This is the promise of the creative way. This is what awaits you when you commit fully to this path. Not just money, not just success, but a complete transformation in how you experience life, from struggle to flow, from scarcity to abundance, from taking to creating, from fear to faith, from separation to connection, from limitation to infinite possibility. This is available to you. This is your birthright. This is the natural result of aligning with how the universe actually works, with the creative laws that Wattles discovered and taught. But it requires your choice, your commitment, your persistent practice. No one can do this for you. No one can give you creative consciousness. You must cultivate it. You must choose it. You must live it, day after day, choice after choice, until it becomes who you are. This is the work, this is the path, and it is worth every ounce of effort, every moment of practice, every time you choose creation over competition, because it leads to a life of abundance, of contribution, of meaning, of wealth that serves you and everyone around you. As we move toward the completion of our exploration, let us address one final and crucial aspect: how to handle the period between when you make the shift to creative consciousness and when the wealth begins to flow. Because there is always a gap. There is always a time between planting and harvest. And this is where most people give up. They make the shift. They start thinking creatively. They begin creating value, but the money does not come immediately. And they panic. They think it is not working. They abandon the creative way and revert to competition. We must understand this gap, this waiting period, and how to navigate it without losing faith. The gap between your shift to creative consciousness and the manifestation of wealth is not empty time. It is not wasted time. It is growing time. This is crucial to understand. When you plant a seed, you do not see anything happen for days or weeks. The soil looks the same. It appears that nothing is changing. But underground, invisible to your eyes, everything is happening. The seed is germinating, roots are forming, the plant is gathering strength, and then when conditions are right, it breaks through the soil. But that breakthrough was only possible because of all the work that happened underground, work you could not see, but that was absolutely essential. Your creative work is the same. When you shift to creative consciousness, when you start creating value, when you begin serving others and operating from abundance, changes begin happening immediately. But they are not immediately visible. The thinking substance is responding to your new thoughts, your new vibration, your new actions. Circumstances are being rearranged, people are moving into position, opportunities are being created, resources are being gathered. All of this is happening invisibly in the realm of cause before it manifests in the realm of effect. And if you understand this, if you trust this process, if you continue your creative work even when you cannot yet see results, the breakthrough will come, the manifestation will occur, the wealth will appear. But if you give up during the invisible stage, if you stop creating value because you cannot yet see the financial reward, you interrupt the process right before it was about to bear fruit. This is why faith is so essential. Not blind faith that ignores reality, but faith based on understanding how manifestation works. Faith that knows deeply and certainly that when you think and act in accordance with creative law, results must follow. Maybe not instantly, maybe not in the exact time frame you prefer, but inevitably. Certainly, because this is law, this is how the universe works, and laws are reliable. They do not sometimes work and sometimes not. They work every time the conditions are met. So when you create genuine value, when you serve others authentically, When you operate from creative consciousness consistently, you are meeting the conditions. You are activating the law. And the result, the wealth, must come. Your job is to maintain faith while you wait for the visible manifestation of what is already in process. So how do you sustain yourself during this gap? How do you pay your bills while you are building your creative offering? How do you maintain faith when weeks or months pass with no obvious results? Here are some practical strategies. First, you do not have to abandon all current income sources immediately. If you have a job, you do not have to quit it the moment you start thinking creatively. You can maintain your current employment while you develop your creative work on the side. You can use your job as the bridge that sustains you financially while you build something new. There is no virtue in struggle. There is no spiritual gold star for making yourself suffer. So be practical. Maintain income however you need to, while you develop your creative capacity and build your value offering. Just make sure that while you are doing this, you are actually doing the creative work, not just thinking about it. Use your evenings, your weekends, your free time to create, to develop, to build. And when your creative work reaches the point where it can sustain you financially, then you can leave the job, but not before. Be strategic, be practical. Take care of your needs while you build your future. Second, start small with your creative offering. You do not have to create the perfect product or service before you launch. You do not have to have everything figured out. You can start with a simple version, a minimum viable offering, something that provides value even if it is not yet everything you envision. Put this into the world. Offer it to people. Learn from their response. Improve it based on feedback. And as you do this, you begin generating income from your creative work, even while you are still developing it fully. This income might be small at first. That is fine. The point is, you are now creating wealth through value creation. You are proving to yourself that the principles work, and you are building momentum that will accelerate your results. Third, measure success by progress, not by comparison to your ultimate goal. If your vision is to make a certain amount of money per year and you are currently making a fraction of that, the gap can feel overwhelming. It can make you feel like you are failing. But you are not failing if you are making progress. If you made more this month than last month, if you served more people, if you improved your offering, if you developed new skills, if you built new relationships, all of this is progress. All of this is movement toward your goal. Celebrate it, acknowledge it, recognize that you are on the path and you are moving forward. This recognition keeps your spirits up. It maintains your motivation. It prevents the despair that comes from focusing only on how far you still have to go, rather than appreciating how far you have already come. Fourth, connect with your why. Why do you want wealth? What will it allow you to do? What will it allow you to become? What will it allow you to contribute? Connect with this deeper motivation regularly. Because when you remember why you are doing this, when you reconnect with the vision of what wealth will enable, you find the strength to persist through the challenging waiting period. The day-to-day struggle can wear you down. But the big why, the meaningful purpose, the vision of what is possible, this lifts you up. This reminds you that the effort is worth it. This gives you the energy to keep going even when results are slow. Fifth, find evidence of progress even in small things. Maybe you do not have the full manifestation of wealth yet. But are you thinking differently than you used to? Are you acting differently? Are you creating more value than you were 6 months ago? Have you helped people? Have you developed skills? Have you made connections? Have you learned things that will serve you going forward? All of this is evidence that the principles are working, that you are transforming, that you are on the path. And this evidence, even though it is not yet the final result you desire, is enough to sustain faith. It shows you that change is happening, that the process is unfolding, that you are not wasting your time, but investing it in something that will pay off. Sixth, persist through the resistance. There will be moments, many moments, when you want to quit. When you think, this is taking too long, this is too hard, maybe the competitive way was right after all. Maybe I should just go back to what everyone else does. This is resistance. This is your old programming trying to pull you back to the familiar, even though the familiar was not working. When you feel this resistance, do not give in to it. Recognize it for what it is: a test, a challenge, an opportunity to prove your commitment and choose to continue. Take one more action toward your creative vision. Serve one more person, create one more piece of value. Keep going. Because often, the breakthrough comes right after the moment when you most wanted to quit. The dawn comes darkest before the sunrise, and if you quit in that dark moment, you miss the light that was about to break through. Seventh, trust the universe's timing. You have your idea of when things should manifest. The universe has its own timing, and the universe's timing is always perfect, even when it does not match your preference. Maybe you are not quite ready for the level of wealth you desire. Maybe you need to develop a bit more. Maybe you need to learn something first. Maybe circumstances need to align in a way that takes time. Trust that if the wealth has not come yet, it is because the time is not yet right. And when the time is right, when everything is in place, it will come quickly, sometimes suddenly, often in ways you did not expect. So do not lose faith in the delay. The delay is part of the process. It is preparation. It is setup. It is the underground growing that must happen before the above-ground flowering. And here is something beautiful. Every day that you persist in creative consciousness, every day that you create value and serve others and operate from abundance even when you have not yet manifested the wealth you desire, you strengthen your creative capacity. You deepen your alignment with universal law. You build the internal foundation that will allow you to not only manifest wealth, but sustain it, grow it, enjoy it. So the waiting period is not wasted. It is essential. It's making you into the person who can handle the abundance that is coming. It is developing the consciousness that will allow you to keep creating wealth for the rest of your life. This is worth any temporary discomfort, any period of waiting, any challenge you face along the way. Now let us bring all of this together. Let us synthesize everything we have explored into a clear understanding and a practical path forward. You have learned tonight the fundamental distinction that determines whether you struggle or flow, whether you live in scarcity or abundance, whether you fight for scraps or generate unlimited wealth. It is the distinction between competitive consciousness and creative consciousness, between the mind that sees limitation and the mind that sees possibility, between the approach that tries to take from what exists and the approach that creates what doesn't yet exist. The competitive mind, for all its determination and effort, cannot create lasting abundance because it is based on a false premise. The premise of scarcity, the belief that there is not enough. And this belief, held in consciousness, creates the experience of not enough. It attracts scarcity. It manifests struggle. It ensures that wealth, even when temporarily attained, is never secure, never peaceful, never truly satisfying. The creative mind operates from the opposite premise, from abundance, from the knowledge that the universe is infinitely abundant, that wealth is not limited, that success is not zero-sum. And this consciousness, this way of thinking, aligns you with how the universe actually works, with the creative laws that govern manifestation, with the thinking substance that responds to thought and brings into form whatever is held clearly and consistently in consciousness. When you think creatively, when you focus on creating value and serving others, when you operate from abundance and contribution, you activate these laws. You align with universal principles, and wealth flows to you, not as something you must fight for, but as the natural result of your creative activity, This is not theory. This is not philosophy. This is practical truth that you can verify through your own experience. Shift from competitive to creative thinking. Stop asking, what can I get? And start asking, what can I give? Stop trying to take a piece of the existing pie and start baking a new pie. Stop focusing on what others are doing and start creating your own unique value. Stop competing and start contributing. Make this shift completely. Commit to it fully. Practice it consistently and watch what happens. Watch how opportunities appear. Watch how your capacity grows. Watch how people are drawn to what you offer. Watch how wealth begins to flow to you, slowly at first, then faster, then abundantly, as you become more skilled at creating value and more aligned with creative consciousness. The path is clear. The principles are reliable. The results are guaranteed for those who apply these teachings fully, but it requires your choice, your commitment, your persistent practice. No one will do this for you. No one can give you creative consciousness. You must cultivate it yourself through daily practice, through consistent return to creative principles every time you slip into competitive thinking, through faith in the process even when results are not yet visible, through action that creates value and serves others, through continuous growth of your capacities, through gratitude for what you have even as you work toward what you desire. This is the work. This is the path Wallace D. Wattles illuminated over a century ago, and it is as true today as it was then, because it is based on universal law, on how consciousness works, on the principles that govern manifestation. These principles do not change, they do not stop working. They are available to you right now, in this moment, regardless of your current circumstances, regardless of your past, regardless of any limitation you think you have. You can begin thinking creatively right now. You can start creating value right now. You can operate from abundance right now. And as you do, as you make this your consistent practice, your life transforms, wealth flows, abundance manifests, success comes, not through struggle, not through competition, but through alignment with the creative power of the universe. And here is the beautiful truth that Wattles understood and taught. When you live this way, when you generate wealth through creation rather than competition, you do not just benefit yourself. You benefit everyone around you, because you are adding value to the world. You are solving problems. You are meeting needs. You are making life better for those you serve. Your abundance is not at anyone else's expense. Your success helps others succeed. Your wealth creates more wealth in the world. This is true prosperity. This is abundance that serves. This is wealth that uplifts. So commit to this path. Embrace creative consciousness fully. Release the competitive patterns that have kept you struggling. Shift from scarcity to abundance, from taking to creating, from fighting to contributing, and trust that as you do, as you align with the creative laws of the universe, everything you desire will flow to you, not someday, not in some distant future, but progressively, steadily, increasingly, as you persist in your creative practice. This is your invitation. This is your opportunity. This is the wisdom that Wattles offered and that remains available to you in this moment. The only question is whether you will accept it, whether you will commit to it, whether you will make the shift from competitive to creative and persist until it becomes who you are. The answer to this question determines your financial future. It determines whether you continue to struggle or begin to flow. It determines whether wealth remains elusive or becomes inevitable. Choose creative consciousness. Choose abundance. Choose contribution over competition. And discover for yourself what every person who has walked this path has discovered, that wealth is not scarce, that success is not limited, that the universe is infinitely abundant, and that when you align with this abundance through creative thought and action, When you focus on creating value and serving others, when you operate from the certain way that Wattles taught, prosperity becomes your natural state. Wealth flows to you as naturally as water flows downhill. And you live in the ease and joy and fulfillment that comes from creating rather than competing, from contributing rather than taking, from abundance rather than scarcity. This is the truth. This is the way. This is available to you now. Step onto this path. Commit to it fully and experience the transformation that awaits. Let us now go deeper into something essential, something that often remains hidden even to those who have intellectually grasped the distinction between competitive and creative consciousness. It is the energetic reality of how wealth moves toward you or away from you based not just on what you think or do, but on the quality of presence you bring to your thoughts and actions. You can think the right thoughts. You can take the right actions. You can create genuine value. But if you are doing all of this from a contracted state, from an energy of desperation or proving or grasping, the results will be limited, because wealth, true wealth, responds not just to what you do, but to who you are being while you do it. This is subtle, this is often missed, but it is absolutely critical to understand if you want to live in sustained abundance rather than experiencing occasional wins followed by inevitable setbacks. The competitive mind operates from contraction. There is a tightness to it, a tension. Even when it achieves success, there is no relaxation, no true satisfaction, because underneath every competitive victory is the fear of loss, the awareness that what was won can be taken, the constant vigilance against the next threat. This contracted state is palpable. People feel it. The universe responds to it. And what it attracts is more situations that require contraction, more reasons to be tense, more circumstances that justify fear. The creative mind, when truly embodied, operates from expansion. There is an openness to it, a sense of spaciousness, a quality of relaxed confidence that knows value is being created, that trusts abundance is flowing, that does not grasp or force or push. This expanded state is equally palpable, and what it attracts is opportunity, resources, connections, synchronicities, all the elements that support creative manifestation, not because you are trying to attract them, but because your expanded state is in resonance with the abundant flow of the universe. You are open, and so openness finds you. This is why two people can take identical actions, can create similar value, can work equally hard, and yet have completely different results. One manifests wealth easily, the other struggles constantly. The difference is not in what they do. The difference is in the quality of presence, the energetic state, the being behind the doing. One creates from expansion. The other creates from contraction. One trusts, the other forces. One flows, the other fights. And the universe, responding to the vibration rather than just the action, gives them matching experiences. So how do you cultivate this expanded state? How do you create from openness rather than contraction? How do you maintain that quality of relaxed confidence even as you work diligently toward your goals? This is an art. This is a practice. This is something you develop over time through awareness and intention. First, you must notice when you are in contraction. What does it feel like in your body? Usually there is tension, tightness in the chest or shoulders or jaw, shallow breathing, a sense of urgency that feels almost like panic, a mental loop of worry or fear or calculation. These are the signs of contraction. And when you notice them, you do not judge yourself. You do not make yourself wrong for being contracted. You simply acknowledge it. I am in contraction right now. I am in the competitive, scarcity-based state. This awareness itself begins to shift things, because you cannot change what you do not see. But once you see it, once you are aware of your state, you can choose differently. Second, you consciously shift to expansion, and the fastest way to do this is through the body, not the mind. Because the mind, especially when caught in contraction, will just create more stories about why you should be worried, why you need to be tense, why the situation is threatening. The mind cannot think its way out of contraction, but the body can lead the way. So you breathe deeply, fully. You let your exhale be longer than your inhale, which activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the relaxation response. You soften your belly, you drop your shoulders, you relax your face. You deliberately release the physical tension. And as you do this, as your body softens, your mind follows. The contracted state begins to dissolve. Space opens up. And in that space, you can reconnect with creative consciousness, with abundance, with trust. Third, you reconnect with gratitude, not as a technique, not as something you force, but as genuine appreciation for what is actually good in your life right now. This moment, this breath, this ability to think and create and contribute, the people you love, the opportunities in front of you, the progress you have made. When you connect with genuine gratitude, when you feel it in your body as warmth or softness or fullness, you cannot simultaneously be in contraction. Gratitude and contraction are mutually exclusive. Gratitude is expansion, it is opening, it is recognition of abundance. And when you rest in gratitude, even for a few moments, you reset your energetic state. You shift from scarcity to abundance, from contraction to expansion, from competitive to creative. Fourth, you reconnect with your vision, but in a specific way, not from the place of, I don't have this yet and I need it. That is contraction. That is lack. Instead, you connect with the vision from the place of, this is what I am creating. This is what I am bringing into the world, and I am enjoying the process of bringing it forth. Feel the satisfaction of creating, the joy of contributing, the pleasure of developing something valuable. When you approach your vision this way, you are in expansion. You are in the creative flow. You are not grasping for a future outcome. You are present with the creative process itself. And this presence, this enjoyment of creation for its own sake, is what allows the wealth to flow most easily. Fifth, you release attachment to specific outcomes and specific timelines. This does not mean you do not have goals. You do. But you hold them lightly. You work toward them diligently. But you do not strangle them with desperate need. You do not demand that they manifest exactly as you picture and exactly when you want. Because that demand is contraction. That need is scarcity. Instead, you set your intention. You take your actions. You create your value. And then you trust. You release. You allow the universe to deliver in the perfect way at the perfect time. This trust, this releasing, this allowing, this is expansion. This is how you stay open to receive the wealth that is flowing toward you. Sixth, you practice presence. Most contraction comes from being mentally in the future, worrying about what might happen, or in the past, regretting what did happen. But in this present moment right now, are you okay? Is there actually a problem right now? Usually, in the present moment, you are fine. The problem exists in your thoughts about the future or the past, not in the actual now. So practice coming back to now. Feel your body, notice your breath, look around and truly see where you are. Hear the sounds, feel the sensations, be here, now, in this moment. When you are fully present, contraction dissolves, because contraction needs the story about the future or the past to sustain itself. And when you are simply here, now, there is only this moment, and this moment is almost always workable, almost always okay. And in that okayness, in that presentness, you are in expansion, you are in creative consciousness, you are open to the flow of abundance. These practices, done regularly, transform your default state from contraction to expansion. And this changes everything about how you experience the creative process and how quickly wealth manifests for you, because you are no longer creating from fear and need and desperation. You are creating from joy and trust and abundance. You are no longer pushing against reality. You are flowing with it. You are no longer trying to make things happen through force. You are allowing them to unfold through alignment. And this is the mastery that Wattles pointed toward, but that few fully embody. The mastery of being in such complete alignment with creative consciousness, with abundance, with trust, that wealth flows to you not as something you work for, but as something you allow, not as something you chase, but as something you attract, not as something you force, but as something you receive. This is where we must address the relationship between effort and allowing, between action and surrender, between doing and being. Because this is where many people become confused. They hear teachings about flow and allowing and trust, and they think it means they should do nothing, should just visualize and wait for the universe to deliver. And then they hear teachings about action and value creation and work, and they think it means they should push and strive and make things happen through effort. Both of these extremes miss the truth. The truth is in the integration. It is in the both and, not the either or. You must act. You must create. You must develop your skills and build your offerings and serve people and do the actual work of bringing value into the world. This is non-negotiable. Ideas without implementation are worthless. Vision without action is fantasy. So you work, you create, you contribute. But, and this is the key, you do all of this from the expanded state, from trust, from presence, from the knowing that you are planting seeds that will bear fruit, that you are creating value that will be rewarded, that the universe is supporting your creative efforts. You work hard, but you do not work desperately. You take consistent action, but you do not force outcomes. You persist, but you do not push against what is. You are both fully engaged and deeply relaxed, both committed to your vision and detached from specific results, both diligent in your efforts and trusting in the process. This integration, this ability to hold apparent opposites in creative tension, this is spiritual maturity. This is what it means to truly master the creative way. And it comes not from understanding it intellectually, though that helps. It comes from practice, from living it, from catching yourself when you slip into pure doing without being, or pure being without doing, and consciously returning to the integrated state where action flows from aligned consciousness, where effort arises from trust rather than fear, where you are simultaneously the creator and the one who allows creation to flow through you. Wattles understood this deeply. He emphasized both thinking in a certain way and acting in a certain way, both the internal and the external, both consciousness and behavior, because one without the other is incomplete. Consciousness without action produces nothing in the physical world. Action without aligned consciousness produces struggle and inconsistent results. But when you have both, when your consciousness is aligned with creative abundance and your actions express that consciousness through value creation and service, you have the complete formula. You have the certain way. And when you live this way consistently, when you embody this integration fully, wealth becomes inevitable. Not as something you might achieve if you get lucky, but as the guaranteed result of your alignment with universal creative law. Let us explore now the question of what true wealth actually is, because many people, even as they pursue wealth, have never clearly defined what they actually want. They know they want more money, but why? What will it give them? What will it allow them to experience or become or contribute? This clarity matters enormously, because wealth is not an end in itself. It is a means, a tool, a form of energy that can be used to create experiences, to solve problems, to contribute to causes you care about, to provide for those you love, to give yourself freedom and security and the ability to live according to your values rather than being controlled by necessity. When you are clear about what wealth means to you, about what you actually want it for, your pursuit of it becomes infused with meaning. It becomes about something larger than just accumulating numbers in a bank account. It becomes about creating a life that matters to you, that reflects your values, that allows you to be who you truly are, and to contribute what you uniquely have to give. This clarity, this connection between wealth and meaning, is what sustains your motivation over the long journey of building genuine abundance. Because there will be challenges. There will be moments when you want to quit. And in those moments, if your only reason for pursuing wealth is a vague sense that you should have more or that it would be nice to have more, you will likely give up. But if you are connected to the deeper why, to the meaningful purpose that wealth will serve, you find the strength to continue. You remember that this is about something important, something worth the effort, something that matters not just to you, but to those whose lives you will impact through your creative contribution and through the ways you use your wealth. So take time to clarify this. What do you actually want wealth for? What experiences do you want to have? What freedom do you want to enjoy? What contributions do you want to make? What problems do you want to solve? Who do you want to help? How do you want to live? What legacy do you want to leave? These questions connect your pursuit of wealth to your deeper values and purposes. And this connection makes the journey meaningful. It makes the creative work feel like an expression of who you are, rather than just a means to an end. It makes the building of wealth feel like the building of a life, not just the accumulation of resources. And here is something beautiful. When you pursue wealth for meaningful reasons, when it is connected to service and contribution and living according to your values, the wealth comes more easily. Because you are not pursuing it from lack or greed or selfish desire. You are pursuing it as a tool to create good in your life and in the world. And the universe, or the thinking substance, or whatever you want to call the creative power that responds to consciousness, supports this. It wants to flow through you. It wants to express through your unique gifts and contributions. It wants to create abundance that serves. And when your pursuit of wealth is aligned with this larger purpose, when it is creative rather than competitive, when it is about contribution rather than mere accumulation, you align with the full power of universal creative force. And that power is unlimited. This brings us to the concept of enough. How much is enough? When do you stop pursuing more? This is a deeply personal question, and the answer depends entirely on your values, your desires, your vision for your life. For some people, enough is a comfortable living that allows them to focus on relationships and creativity and experiences rather than constantly working. For others, enough is massive wealth that allows them to fund large projects, to create significant impact, to build institutions or movements or businesses that serve many people. Neither is right or wrong. Neither is better or worse. The question is, what is true for you? What is your enough? The danger is in never defining enough, in always moving the goalpost, in thinking, I'll be happy when I have this much, and then when you have it, immediately thinking, but I need more. This is the treadmill of never enough, and it comes from competitive consciousness, from scarcity, from the belief that more is always better, that there is never enough, that satisfaction is always just beyond your current level of wealth. This is miserable, and it is unnecessary. Because enough is not an external number, it is an internal sense. It is the point at which you have what you need to live according to your values, to provide for those you love, to contribute as you feel called, and to enjoy the freedom that wealth can provide. When you reach your enough, you can stop. Or you can continue creating wealth, but from a different motivation, from pure enjoyment of creation rather than from need or lack. Knowing you're enough also protects you from the trap of sacrificing everything for wealth. Some people pursue money with such singular focus that they destroy their health, their relationships, their peace of mind, their joy. They become wealthy but empty, rich but miserable, successful but alone. This is not true wealth. This is poverty in the midst of plenty. True wealth includes, yes, financial abundance, but also health, relationships, peace, joy, meaning, contribution, time for what matters, freedom to live as you choose. And when you know you're enough, when you are clear about what actually constitutes a rich life for you, you can pursue financial wealth without sacrificing everything else. You can create abundance in all areas of life, not just the financial. You can be truly wealthy in the fullest sense of the word. Wattles understood this. He emphasized that wealth is about fullness of life, not just fullness of bank accounts. He taught that the desire for wealth is actually the desire for more life, for richer experience, for greater capacity to express and enjoy and contribute. And when you pursue wealth from this understanding, when you see it as one aspect of a full and meaningful life rather than as the sole measure of success, you create sustainable abundance. Abundance that serves you rather than enslaving you. Abundance that enhances life rather than consuming it. Abundance that feels like freedom rather than burden. So as you commit to the creative way, as you build your capacity to generate wealth through value creation and service, also commit to defining and creating wealth in all areas of your life. Cultivate relationships that nourish you, develop practices that maintain your health, engage in activities that bring you joy, contribute to causes that matter to you, live in alignment with your values, create beauty and meaning and connection. Because all of this is wealth. All of this is abundance. And when you have all of this, when your life is rich in every dimension, the financial wealth flows more easily because you are already vibrating abundance. You are already living from fullness, and the universe matches that frequency with more of the same. We must address now the shadow side of wealth, the ways that money can corrupt, can distort priorities, can create problems even as it solves them, because wealth is power. And power reveals. It amplifies who you already are. If you are generous, wealth allows you to be more generous. If you are greedy, wealth makes you more greedy. If you are insecure, wealth often intensifies that insecurity rather than relieving it. If you have unresolved issues around worthiness or control or fear, wealth will bring those issues to the surface with greater intensity. This is why the internal work, the cultivation of creative consciousness, the development of abundance mentality, all of this is so important. Because if you manifest wealth without having done this internal work, without having shifted from competitive to creative consciousness, the wealth will either not last or it will not satisfy you. You will lose it, often as quickly as you gained it, because your consciousness has not shifted enough to sustain it. Or you will have it, but find that it does not bring the happiness you expected, because the scarcity and fear and competitive patterns that drove you to pursue it are still active, still creating suffering, just in different forms. The creative way that Wattles taught is not just a technique for making money, it is a path of transformation. It is about becoming someone different, someone who thinks from abundance rather than scarcity, someone who creates value rather than taking it, someone who trusts the universe rather than fighting it, someone who operates from expansion rather than contraction. And when you become this person, when you embody this consciousness, the wealth you manifest will be clean, it will be sustainable, it will serve you and those around you. It will feel like blessing rather than burden, because it arose from your aligned consciousness and it reflects who you have become. So as you work on manifesting wealth, work equally on becoming the kind of person who can handle wealth well. Develop integrity, keep your word, be honest in your dealings, treat people fairly, give value equal to or greater than what you receive, be generous, share your abundance, contribute to causes you care about, use your wealth to make life better for yourself and for others. Do not hoard, do not clutch. Do not let wealth make you mean or selfish or disconnected from your humanity. Stay humble, stay grateful, stay connected to what actually matters: relationships, health, meaning, contribution, not just the accumulation of more. When you approach wealth this way, when you see it as a tool for creating good rather than as a measure of your worth or a source of security or a means of proving yourself better than others, you are ready for abundance. You have the consciousness that can receive it and use it well, and the universe trusts you with it. Resources flow to you because you are someone who will use them wisely, who will create value with them, who will contribute through them. You have become a good steward of wealth, and good stewards are given more to steward. This is universal law. This is how it works, and it is why the internal transformation is just as important as the external actions when it comes to creating lasting abundance. As we move toward the conclusion of this deep exploration, let us gather the essential wisdom into practical steps you can begin implementing immediately. Because understanding is valuable only when it leads to application. Knowledge that is not acted upon is wasted. So let us be concrete, let us be specific, let us create a clear path from where you are now to where you want to be. Your first step is to make a clear decision. Decide right now that you are shifting from competitive to creative consciousness, that you are releasing the old patterns of scarcity and competition and struggle, that you are embracing the creative way, the way of abundance and contribution and value creation. This decision is crucial, because without a clear decision, you will waver. You will try the creative way half-heartedly, keeping one foot in the competitive approach just in case. And this divided consciousness produces divided results. You must commit fully. You must burn the bridges to the old way. You must say, I am done with competition. I am done with scarcity thinking. I am all in on the creative path. Make this decision now. Feel it in your body. Let it be real. Let it be complete. Your second step is to identify your area of value creation. What problems can you solve? What needs can you meet? What are you genuinely interested in or skilled at or uniquely positioned to do? This does not have to be grand. It does not have to be revolutionary. It just has to be something that genuinely helps people and that you are capable of doing or learning to do. Spend time with this question. Explore possibilities. Talk to people. Research what problems exist in areas you care about. And when you find something that resonates, something that feels like a genuine match between what you can offer and what people need, commit to it. Make it your focus. This is your area of creative contribution. This is where you will generate value. This is how you will create wealth. Your third step is to start creating even if you are not ready, even if you do not have all the skills, even if you do not have everything figured out. Start. Create a simple version of your value offering. Put it out into the world, offer it to people, learn from their response. You will never feel completely ready. You will always feel like you need to learn more, practice more, refine more before you launch. But this is just fear. This is resistance. Push through it. Start messy, start small, start imperfect, but start, because nothing happens until you start. And the learning, the improvement, the refinement, all of that happens through doing, not through endless preparation. Your fourth step is to establish a daily practice that reinforces creative consciousness. Every morning, before you engage with the world, spend time aligning your mind. Read something that reminds you of these principles. Visualize your creative vision. Feel gratitude for what you have. Set your intention to create value today. Do whatever practices help you connect with abundance, with trust, with creative consciousness. This daily practice is essential because the world will constantly pull you back toward competitive thinking, toward scarcity, toward fear. And this daily practice is how you counter that pull. This is how you stay aligned. This is how you maintain the consciousness that attracts wealth. Your fifth step is to take one action every single day toward your creative vision. One action. It does not have to be huge. It can be small. But it must be something that moves you forward. Something that builds your offering or develops your skills or connects you with potential customers or improves your value creation in some way. One action, every day, no matter what. This consistency is what creates momentum. This is what builds results. This is how you transform a vision into a reality, not through occasional big efforts, but through daily small actions that compound over time into significant results. Your sixth step is to practice expanded presence throughout your day. Notice when you contract. Notice when you slip into fear or scarcity or competition. And when you notice, breathe, soften, return to gratitude, reconnect with trust. This practice, repeated hundreds of times, thousands of times, gradually shifts your default state from contraction to expansion, from competitive to creative, from scarcity to abundance. And this shift in your being is what ultimately attracts wealth most powerfully. Your seventh step is to measure and celebrate progress. Keep track of what you are creating, how many people you are serving, how your skills are developing, how your offering is improving, how your income is growing, even if slowly at first. And celebrate these wins. Acknowledge your progress. Recognize that you are moving forward. This positive reinforcement sustains your motivation. It trains your brain to see evidence of success rather than only noticing what is not yet achieved. And what you focus on expands. So focus on progress. Celebrate wins, acknowledge growth, and watch how this draws more success toward you. Your eighth step is to continuously learn and improve. Never stop developing your capacity to create value. Read books in your field, take courses, study successful people in your area, practice skills, experiment with new approaches. Always be expanding what you can do, what you know, how you serve. Because the more valuable you become, the more wealth flows to you. It is direct. It is guaranteed. So make learning and growth a permanent part of your life, not just until you succeed, always. Because success is not a destination, it is a direction. It is a way of being that continuously evolves and expands. Your ninth step is to build relationships based on mutual value creation. Connect with others who are also creating value, who are also on this creative path. Support their success. Share your knowledge. Collaborate where appropriate. Be generous with your time and expertise. Help others succeed and watch how this generosity returns to you multiplied, how the connections you build become opportunities, how the value you give creates value that flows back. This is the creative way in relationship, and it builds a network of abundance that supports everyone involved. Your 10th step is to trust the process and persist through challenges. There will be setbacks. There will be moments when you doubt. There will be times when results are slower than you want. This is normal. This is part of the journey. Do not let it shake your faith. Do not abandon the creative path when it gets difficult. Instead, return to the principles. Remember that wealth comes through value creation. Remember that the universe rewards consistent creative effort. Remember that you are planting seeds that will bear fruit, and keep going, keep creating, keep contributing, keep trusting. Because the breakthrough often comes right after the moment when you most wanted to quit. And if you persist, if you maintain your creative consciousness and continue your value creation through all challenges, you will succeed. This is guaranteed. This is law. This is how the universe works. These 10 steps are your path from where you are to financial abundance. They are simple. They are clear, they are practical, but they require commitment. They require consistent application. They require that you actually do them, not just understand them intellectually. So begin right now. Make the decision. Identify your value creation area. Start creating. Establish your daily practice. Take daily action. Practice expanded presence. Measure progress. Keep learning. Build relationships. Trust and persist. Do these things. Do them consistently. Do them from creative consciousness, and watch your life transform. Watch wealth flow to you. Watch abundance become your reality, not through competition, not through struggle, but through alignment with the creative principles that govern manifestation. This is the path Wallace D. Wattles illuminated. This is the certain way. This is available to you now. Take it, walk it, live it, and discover for yourself the truth that millions have discovered before you. That wealth is not about competition, that abundance is not about scarcity, that success comes not from taking but from creating. That when you align with creative consciousness, when you focus on contributing value, when you operate from the principles we have explored tonight, prosperity becomes inevitable. Freedom becomes your experience. Abundance becomes your reality. This is your birthright. This is your potential. This is waiting for you on the other side of the decision to shift from competitive to creative consciousness. Make that decision. Take that step. Begin that journey. And let your life become the evidence that the creative way works. That abundance is real, that wealth flows to those who think and act in alignment with universal creative law. The universe is abundant. You are creative. Wealth is your natural state when you align with who you truly are and with how reality actually works. Believe this, embody this, live this, and watch everything change.